Okay, there are literally hundreds of reviews on the new 2022 Tundra. And here's mine. And this is going to be a full in-depth coverage of this truck. I'm going to go through a lot of nuanced driving details because that's usually what I like to do. And obviously I'm going to break down the interior, the best trim level to get. Just get this on the road real quick. We'll talk about that engine in a little bit. This particular model does not have the TRD off-road, but it is a crew cab. It does have the 6.5 foot bed, and it does have air suspension in the rear, and it is the adjustable variable suspension as well. So changes, well, you pretty much already know what the changes are. They ditched the leaf springs in the rear, and we now have multi-link suspension in the rear end, double wishbones up front, and obviously the engine is completely different. No more V8 options here. We have here the 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6 engine with 389 horsepower and 479 pounds-feet of torque. I have not yet tried the hybrid model, the iForce Max. But I'll be honest, on paper, there isn't a huge fuel economy benefit of getting that hybrid power plant. It's mainly to get the extra horsepower and torque out of it. Makes well over 400 horses and over 500 pounds-feet of torque. So that's going to be a very quick machine. But again, I'm not going to be too excited about it because I haven't tried it. I don't know if it's a smooth power plant or anything like that. And I'll talk about the looks after I do the driving segment. So let's go ahead and let's transition over into this drive because you already know pretty much all the changes that they made. Just kind of go ahead, floor it here. Yeah, nobody should have an issue with power, performance, anything like that, because this is far quicker than the previous generation 5.7 V8. It's made it to this 10-speed automatic transmission, and I have to say, I do really like this power plant. It's smooth, it's efficient, it's quick to respond. It's not perfect, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but here's the thing. Is this better than the previous generation 5.7 liter V8? For the most part, yes it is. However, a couple of things to keep in mind here because I am a V8 nut, you know. I love V8 engines and I talk about it all the time. But why do people like V8s? Mostly it's because of reliability, simplicity, right? That's the primary reason for liking a V8 engine. However, in terms of the sound department, most of the regular V8 engines, like the 5.7 and the 5.7 Hemi and the 5 liter Coyote, you know, all these engines, they're like the non-performance engines. They're heavily muffled. You can barely hear them. If you own a previous generation Tundra and it's like the regular 5.7, then yes, this would be an upgrade. However, if you owned a TRD Pro Tundra, totally different story because that one had a phenomenal catback exhaust on it that really woke it up. One of the best sounding trucks out there. So that's the thing. If you want to really experience a V8, it's got to be one with an exhaust on it, especially in the truck market. You know, none of these trucks out of the box sound like, you know, a Mustang GT or like a Lexus LC500, right? They're all heavily muffled and you have to put your own exhaust on it. So out of the box, if you're not going to put an exhaust on it, this actually sounds better because they actually pumped in fake engine noises into the cabin of this vehicle. So when you step on it, you get a pretty satisfactory noise. I really enjoy it and I think it's really well done. You can't turn it off or anything, but I don't want to. I think it sounds great as is. And you can kind of hear like that turbo kind of spooling up a little bit. That's also a nice touch. And the overall experience is smooth. That's the most important thing, okay? Putting an exhaust on this and trying to make this louder is a waste of time. As it sits, it's very good. The only thing I desire out of a twin turbocharged motor is for it to be smooth, and this is very smooth. This 10-speed transmission, fantastic. Far superior to what Ford does with their 10-speed. Ford has admittedly improved it significantly over the model years, like the 2021s and 2022s. They perform pretty great, but I still think this is a little bit better out of the box. But I will say this, here's the complaint I have. I was at a stop sign and I just pegged it for literally a second, maybe a second and a half. The vehicle would not move after I pushed down the pedal all the way. that was really dangerous, and that really threw me off. However, I did the same thing at the same, stop sign, right? Okay, I kind of circled back, and what I did was I turned the traction control off, and it immediately took off, no issues. There's actually not a crazy amount of lag with this power plant, but for that one instance, it really scared me there. It just would not move for an entire second after I pushed down the throttle. But outside of that one little issue I had, this power plant is amazing. I really do like it. Reliability, big question mark. I think some people had like a wastegate / turbo issue. Some guy who works at a dealership, he messaged me saying that the LS 500s at the Lexus dealership typically have turbo issues, and it is what it is. Who primarily buys stuff like this? It's a family, and quite a wealthy family actually, that utilizes this as a, an everyday car, family vehicle. Literally a year from now, you can just sell the truck kind of like how we did with our Tundra and just get into a new truck. Just make sure that you get at a great deal. Like the Ram we bought, we got it like 12% off plus incentives. So, I mean, we can actually sell that for money right now if we wanted to, but we're not going to, not right now anyway. So that's the benefit of trucks. The excellent resale value and the desirability, if you buy it in the right spec, is fantastic. So you don't really have to worry about reliability. You can just go dump it at CarMax and be done with it. Or if you are the type that really keeps your vehicle for a very long time, get an extended warranty and be done with it. Don't try to be a hero. Don't think you're going to work on this by yourself, buy a Harbor Freight crane. No, that's not going to work out because it's a very complicated engine. This is a dealer service only, unfortunately. So keep that in mind. Just be smart. If you want to keep it long-term, pay like $2-3 grand and get an extended warranty. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts on the drivetrain. Other things I want to talk about. Suspension. That's going to be the major key thing, and the chassis. Well, let's talk about the good first. Okay, let's talk about the chassis, the body control. That is absolutely fantastic. My expectation was very high for this truck, mainly because the 2021 Tundra was absolutely excellent. It was one of the most heavily misunderstood vehicles by both reviewers and owners alike. I loved just about everything about the Tundra, the 2021, except for the way it handled. Everyday handling is what I mean. Like when you take a left-hand turn, a right-hand turn, the thing always felt like it was going to flip over onto itself. It was so annoying. Like the occupants, there was too much movement for the occupants. We would just be swayed around left and right. This truck, because they stiffened up the chassis by quite a bit, it's like that TNGA-F platform, a Japanese platform built for the new Land Cruiser and the Lexus LX 600, built in collaboration with American engineers. Box chassis setup, I love it. It handles extremely well for what this is. And there's no more of that outrageous swinging around, none of that. That was the only complaint I had about the Tundra. Otherwise, the SR5 TRD off-road that we had, it was amazing in terms of ride quality. Honestly, it rivals the Ram 1500. That's how good it rode. And many people would say that the previous generation, because it was the leaf springs, it would get out of hand, it would be way too jittery in the rear. Absolute nonsense. When you bought that truck with the TRD off-road package and the 18-inch wheels, it was so well sorted, it wasn't an issue. This truck, however, this one actually behaves like a truck with leaf springs in the rear. I kid you not. When you go over sharp bumps in this, it really upsets the balance in the rear end. And when I looked at the window sticker and I found out this truck had the air suspension, that's when I realized, okay, it's probably the air suspension that's causing this to ride way too firm. And there are modes that you can play with here. I typically drive this around in the comfort mode. I've tried in the Sport Plus, makes no real difference. Regular bumps, it soaks it up pretty decently, but when you go over something sharp, man, it really translates it inside of the cabin space. Not a fan of that. I think you can fix it. I don't think this is a lost cause for this truck. What you need to do is, the best spec of this truck that I can probably recommend, and I haven't driven this, so I guess I can't really recommend this completely, but I think if you purchase an SR5 with the TRD off-road package and 18-inch wheels, I think that can be a significantly better riding version of this truck. Skip the air suspension, skip it all day long, reduce the complexity, get those Bilstein shocks in there instead. I think that can really soften it up, because off-road shocks are typically tuned to be softer to go, off-roading. You don't have to go off-roading. Most people don't. These types of trucks, they're pavement princesses. But buy it for the comfort and also the resale value. Tundras typically do well when you get the TRD off-road package on them. You can get it with this truck as well. I think the 1794. It just didn't come with it, this test vehicle. The particular truck that I spec'd out was around $54,000. It's like the advanced off-road package with options. Toyota really needs to clean up their options list. It's very confusing for a company that's so focused on being efficient and Kaizen and all that good stuff. Their options list is a disaster. But the one I spec'd out, I think the package came out to be around $6,000 or $7,000. Getting the 14-inch screen is up to you. The regular screen is an 8-inch screen. But the way I spec'd it out, you also got the blind spot monitoring, a heated steering wheel, the TRD off-road package, like I already mentioned, and a 32-gallon fuel tank. I think that's very important to have on a full-size truck like this. All that came out to be around $54,000. But when you go with the SR5 model, you cannot get the JBL audio system, which is, as I'm about to state in the interior segment, one of the best, probably the best audio system found in a pickup truck. So if you want that, you have to step up to the Limited. But the problem with the Limited is when you get the 14-inch screen, when you get the JBL audio, TRD off-road, it's going to be around $58,000. And that truck is going to come with 20-inch wheels. Something to keep in mind. Maybe the wheel size isn't a big deal, but I will say every little bit counts. It's only going to help the ride quality to get the smaller wheels. So I would probably still stick with the SR5 and just live with the 9-speaker audio system, because I do recommend getting a CrewMax with 4x4. CrewMax 4x4 trucks always have the best resale value, and get the 5.5 foot bed, because this 6.5 foot bed, complete disaster to maneuver around town in. I do not like it. It's so long. It looks awkward. I'm not really a huge fan of the way this Tundra looks in general, but the 6.5 foot bed does not help with it. Get a CrewMax with a 5.5 foot bed and you should be happy with that. And it's better for the value of the truck anyway. But hey, I guess it's good that they offer, different options for you. That's good. Other things to note, is this truck quiet? Kind of. It's not the quietest in the segment. I think the Ram and the F-150 is a little bit quieter than this. But this isn't bad. You just get a slight bit of wind buffeting. Not bad at all. In fact, surprisingly, I think the previous generation Tundra was a little bit quieter than this. I kid you not. This one does not have double pane glass. If you want double pane glass, you have to step up to the crazy $75,000 capstone, which is just absurd. This is $66,000. The model I recommend is around $53,000 to $58,000, right? Which that's good value in the full-size truck market. That's a good price to pay for a relatively cool, well-spec'd, well-loaded truck. A $35,000 Mazda CX-5 comes with double pane glass. These trucks start at around $36,000, $38,000. It should come standard with the double pane glass. It should not be something that's reserved for the top level spec, because if it utilized that thicker glass, this could be one of the quieter trucks. There's not a whole lot of tire noise. Speaking of tires, the tires that this particular truck has sucks. It's the Yokohama's 265 wide tires. They should have made the tires at least 275 wide, and Michelin's and Bridgestones tend to be the better tire choices for trucks. Quiet, plenty of grip. This one has no grip. It just makes you look like an idiot every time you floor it someplace, because it's just, screeching the tires in the back. Otherwise, the stability is great at higher speeds. The steering feels fantastic, very direct. Handling wise, the F-150 is by far the best handling truck ever. That's not to be disputed because it's an all aluminum body. The Ram is actually the softest riding still. Again, if you buy the model I suggest with the Tundra, maybe that can be a much better rival for the Ram, but I have to really test it for myself. Engine, this is one of my more favorite engines, but let's talk about the fuel economy, because that's one of the main reasons why one would consider this truck in the first place and this power plant. It's rated to get 18 in the city and like 22 in the highway. It says it takes 87 octane fuel. I'm surprised by that, because usually turbo engines need premium fuel, but Do I get 18 in the city? Yes, if you drive it like somebody's grandmother. As soon as you get on that throttle, it drops down to 14 again. So, and you will be getting on the throttle because you want to enjoy the engine that you paid for. It is a very powerful engine and you want to enjoy it, and you're going to get on the throttle a little bit. But once you do that, it starts to dip down into the 14 range, and that's not cool. So I guess with real world driving, these turbo engines, they're not that efficient, okay? But if you drive like everybody else on the road, like 15 miles an hour below the speed limit, then it's not a big deal, I guess. On the highway, all these trucks get abysmal fuel economy, like 20, 22, whatever, 23, something like that, because, it's like a big old brick. I think the drag coefficient on this is 0.36, obviously way more aerodynamic than the previous generation, but it's still not great. So there's a limit to how good the fuel economy can be out on the highway. The one good thing about the iForce Max, the hybrid Tundra, is you can actually creep around town, like slower speed driving around a neighborhood, around a parking lot. You can do that in full EV driving, but you can't drive it at speeds in full electric driving. That's something you have to keep in mind. So that could save you some fuel, but again, on paper, it seems to get the exact same MPGs as this. Again, reliability, resale value, that's a huge reason why somebody would consider a Toyota product. And typically, Toyota does have the best resale value compared to the other half tons, okay, like aside from like Raptors and TRXs, apples to apples type truck, Toyota typically has a better resale value. And reliability, yeah, I still trust Toyota over the other brands. Fords have issues, they have transmission issues. Rams obviously are not known for their reliability. Again, most people don't care. They just trade it in, whatever, when the latest and the greatest comes out. But even our Ram truck has some infotainment issues, like when the Apple CarPlay is turned on and you put the vehicle into reverse, sometimes the backup camera doesn't come on. There's a couple of glitches like that with the Ram. So none of the vehicles are perfect, but a lot of the issues that this Tundra has is kind of a first model year type of thing. I'm not saying to avoid this truck. If you want it, get it. Just get it in the right spec. Don't overpay for it. I don't know. It would be ideal if you can wait for like a 2023 model year or even a 2024. I think 2023 would be fine. I think you should be pretty happy with that. But if you are a current owner of a 5.7 Tundra, like a previous generation Tundra, I would say just hold on to it for a little bit longer. The only thing I didn't like about that truck is the chassis. It just kind of rolled about a little bit more. But that's okay. I can digest that. I can live with that. That's not really a big deal, because everything else about the Tundra I really enjoyed. Especially if you have a TRD Pro. Yeah, you can flip it for a lot of money, but if you just enjoy driving it, enjoy the sound, enjoy the looks of it, because I like the looks of the previous generation Tundra a little bit more than this. But hold on to it for maybe one more year and see what happens, and then maybe pick up like a 2023 version of this vehicle. But is it bad? Absolutely not. There's a lot of good here. I think this is still a world-class product, but it's brand new. It just has a few kinks that it needs to have worked out. With that established, let's go ahead and let's talk about the interior space next. Okay, the interior of the new 2022 Tundra. Let's go ahead, let's talk about it. This has a fantastic first impression. People are amazed when they step inside and they see this Tundra with the white leather seats and with the wood 1794 plaque and this kind of leather strap here on the front dash here. This massive 14-inch tablet screen. It's probably bigger than most people's laptops, right? It just looks fantastic in here. I'll probably just go ahead and say this. I think this is actually the best truck interior out there. Yeah, I think there's just so much going on here. So many different textures, designs, and elements here that I really appreciate. But it's not perfect. Okay, I admit there's a lot of use of plastic here. And it's not like the previous generation Tundra. Yes, that was also a predominantly plastic interior space, but it was built really solid. This one, a little bit more chintzy. Some of the pieces are kind of moving around a little bit more. This kind of armrest is a little bit, flimsy feeling. Same thing with some of the scratchy plastics here. And this kind of white leather material that you see here is actually just plastic again. So a lot of plastics coupled with that kind of harsher ride quality that you get with the air suspension might cause it to rattle a little bit more than kind of like the previous truck, let's say the previous Tundra. I would still put this above the Ram as a more impressive interior space because this infotainment adds a lot to the experience. Okay, I love this infotainment screen. Probably I'm just going to say this as well. This is probably the best infotainment out of any new car out there. This is so elegant, easy to use, quick to respond. You know, there's just no fuss with it. It's massive. You can see everything. That being said, I'm sure the 8-inch screen is also fine. You know, that shouldn't be a problem. You can get this in the SR5 model, actually. The one that I spec'd, you know, if you pay around 54 grand, you can actually get this screen. So I'll probably do it. You know, I don't think it's worth saving $1,000 to not have this screen. I would rather have this. And when you go to sell it, other people would want this as well. It's amazing. And it's got the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's wireless as well. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And it hasn't glitched up on me, hasn't done anything weird. It's just fast and looks beautiful. So great job there on the infotainment. It's amazing. I like the way they have it placed. The toggle switches here almost remind me of like the new Hummer, the new GMC Hummer. You have these toggles, you have these buttons here. Easy to use, fantastic. There's no learning curve. It's ergonomic like you would expect out of a Toyota product. We have the heated and cooled seats, of course. USB ports, a stupid wireless charging pad, which will just randomly turn on and off. That's what I hate about Toyota's wireless pad. And it doesn't really charge your phone that quickly either, but it's a good place to store your phone at least. The camera systems are also amazing, probably the best camera systems as well in a new vehicle. It really helps you out to park this large behemoth. The center digital display also looks great, also easy to use. You have these buttons on the steering wheel. Again, none of this is confusing. None of this feels distracting. It's just great and well done. We have automatic headlights, automatic wipers, one-touch up and down windows for all 4 windows. But I'll say this is another complaint that I have with this truck. It's the seating position. This has so many blind spots. We have here the optional kind of tow mirrors, which a lot of people rave over. They love it. The reviewers, they flip out when they see it because it can kind of, you know, extend outward more. You know, again, if you're towing with it, great. And I'll put the towing figures up here because obviously it changes between the different trim levels and the models. But keep in mind with the base model SR, it actually makes less horsepower and torque than something like the SR5s and up. Yeah, back to the seating position. These mirrors swallow up everything. Like full-on cars and trucks get hidden behind that mirror. I'm always having to like look around it. Very annoying. This A-pillar is also not helping out, and I get it, you know, I'm not trying to be daft here. You know, every car has an A-pillar and mirrors, but it's better sorted in other vehicles. And I've tried out different seating positions, like I try to raise up my seat, lower it all the way. It still doesn't help out. And the previous Tundra was much easier to drive. Our current Ram is much easier. The F-150s, you know, all these trucks are much easier to see out of than this. Other things, you have plenty of controls down here next to my left knee here for your mirror controls, for your auto stop start defeat and the automatic high beams. Huge panoramic sunroof, but keep in mind this pano sunroof will decrease your headroom inside of this truck by a good amount actually, especially in the rear, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Center armrest, plenty of space. Yeah, it feels flimsy, but whatever. It's got plenty of space in there. USB, USB-C, coin holders, and this will kind of split out. You can put like a wallet in this wooden area of it. So yeah, plenty of space. It's not an issue. The glove box is full of books for right now. Seats are super comfortable. Love the way they look, love the way they feel. The lumbar support is fantastic. That was actually one other complaint that I had with the previous generation Tundra. The seats weren't super comfortable, especially the cloth seats. The leather seats were better, but these are amazing, very comfortable. I did not have an issue doing a longer trip in here. This is a crew cab, but I feel like Toyota has really taken away the overall interior space inside of this truck, especially compared to the competition and also even the previous generation truck. The double cab is now reduced to being completely worthless for this generation, so avoid the double cab completely now. The previous generation Tundra, the double cab was about the same size as most every other crew cab truck out there, and that's now gone. But even this crew cab, it doesn't have like a plethora of space. It's good, don't get me wrong. It's a full-size truck. It's more than enough for most people, but the headroom is affected with the pano roof. So I would avoid the pano roof for sure. But you can flip up those seats. You have a lot of storage space underneath those seats. I like the 1794 mats. That's a nice touch. And the bed is something else we need to talk about, because it's kind of like that aluminum reinforced plastic bed, and I think it's brilliant. It's the exact same bed that they've been using in the Tacomas, and it's durable, it's lightweight, and the benefit of this is you don't have to option the bed lining spray, the sprayed-in bed liner anymore. That's not necessary. But I think that's great. I hate seeing trucks that don't have a bed liner in it. Now you don't have to worry about that with the new Tundras. And again, I definitely think you should go with the 5.5 foot bed. Most people that buy Tundras, they use it for personal use, not for work purposes. So it's kind of weird that they offer so many different bed sizes, but it's there if you need it. There's no strip dancing pole in the rear. There's no step ladders. There's none of that nonsense. Well, there's one thing. You can actually electronically put down the tailgate with the remote. It won't go up electronically, but you can put it down. But as soon as you do put down the tailgate, there's like this little side step that comes out electronically as well, which is nice. That's a nice touch. Most other trucks, like our Ram, we have to physically kick it out, but this one electronically comes out and closes. Same thing with the side step. It's electronic in this vehicle, but I would just get the side step that's just built into the side of the truck. I think that's best, and that's simpler. But this particular bed, it has some railings on the side, help you clamp things down, and it has a power outlet in the back as well. It's not quite as robust as like the F-150 tailgates. The F-150 is like the best for work, honestly. The F-150, like the interior space, it has like that laptop tray thing going on. It's got rulers, it's got sticks, it's got rods that pop out, and you can clamp pieces of wood to the back. If you want to use it as like a work table, workbench, I don't know. There's just a bunch of crazy things that they put in there, but a regular person using this for family doesn't really need all those features, so I don't really care that Toyota doesn't offer that stuff. Well, I'll just touch on two other things I forgot to mention. The heads-up display is actually pretty cool. You can turn it off if you want, but it's a pretty nice heads-up display. Also, the JBL audio system, I touched on this during the drive, but it's the best sounding one. I think it's a 12-speaker setup. Sounds amazing. Clarity is great. The bass is fantastic. This is probably better than the 19 speaker found in the Rams. So let's quickly sum everything up here. Should you buy this? Yes. I don't think that this is a bad product. I just think you need to find the right spec for you, which I've already stated. That's good value, and I guess it'll yield you maybe a mile or two better MPGs, which helps, I guess. It's a nice touch, but I do like this engine and the transmission, and I like the overall demeanor, the handling, the interior space. The infotainment is the best. There's so much good here. I just think Toyota needs to tweak it a little bit, year by year, and I think this has potential to be pretty much like one of the best trucks out there. But keep in mind, the competition is high. So no matter what truck you get, the 2022 Silverado that's been kind of refreshed, that's also going to be amazing. You're not making a bad choice with any of these trucks. And if you want an old school truck, get the Titan. All the trucks are great. Buy whatever you want. They should all pretty much have great resale value. Just don't pay over MSRP or anything stupid like that. Try to get at MSRP or slightly below. But that's my thoughts. In the end screen here, I'm going to have my Ram 1500 review playing. So click on it and I'll be sure to see you there.